Hey team, it's Tracy coming to you again from Traders Academy. So today we're going to continue our series of videos on indicators. So last week we did a video on volume, and if you haven't watched it yet, I highly suggest you go back and watch it because this video is going to require at least a cursory understanding of volume so that you can follow along. Today it's going to be about VWAP. I'm going to give you a basic definition of what it is. I'm going to explain how traders use it to enter and exit positions. And then I'm going to give you a chart example as we really put it all together and you see it in action. So if you've been looking at our alerts, or the alerts of any other trading group, you'll see where it says like XYZ stock cross VWAP. This indicator is huge. Especially in day trading, because it's a key indicator on when to enter and exit a position, which quite honestly is the hardest part about trading, right? So what is it? If you break out the acronym VWAP, it's volume weighted average price. Self-explanatory, right? No? Okay, well, let's go into it. So VWAP is an indicator that calculates the average price of every share traded up to that point. And it's calculated by adding up the dollar amount of all the transactions and then dividing it by the amount of shares that have been traded up to that point. It relies on past data, as all indicators do, but because this one factors in every single trade, the more data that gets entered into it, the more it starts to lag. So it's actually best used for intraday trading. So it's important because institutional traders will use VWAP as an indication on when to enter and exit, right? So institutional traders, when they have large amounts of shares, they can't just enter and exit without affecting the share price. So they will scale in and out using VWAP as their benchmark. So for institutional traders, buying a stock below VWAP will cause some movement. It could make it shoot up. It could do nothing at all. Right? Because it's a stock market. You never know what's going to happen. You really don't. But there's, if it makes it shoot up, there's always going to be a pullback. I guess, yeah, that is the one sure thing about the stock market is that when something shoots up, it's going to go back down. It might not go back down all the way, but it's going to pull back. And when it pulls back, if it pulls back and hits VWAP and then bounces back up, that's a sign of strength. Right? That's a sign that other traders are then coming in and pushing that stock above VWAP. So if the stock is on a downtrend, it will usually get rejected at VWAP. Okay, so conversely of what I just said, if a stock is trading below VWAP and there's not much volume, it's not very strong, it's going to go up and it's going to hit VWAP and then it's going to get rejected and it's going to keep going down. And as that keeps happening, institutional traders are then going to start selling their shares, and then other institutional traders will come in and start selling their shares, and then boom, 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 domino effect. If you didn't sell in time, you're bag holding, right? But because of this type of movement that happens around VWAP, traders will use the break of VWAP as an indication of the momentum shifting, right? If the stock is below VWAP and every time it moves up, it gets rejected, it means that the VWAP is a resistance. If the stock is above VWAP and there's volume and it sells off, if it hits VWAP and then goes back up, it's a sign of strength, right? It's showing that VWAP is support. So now we're going to go into the actual charts and I'm going to show this to you in action. All right, let's open our Webull app, take us to our watch list. We're going to click on VVPR, and you can see we're on the 3-minute chart. If you look right below the 3-minute, you see where it says MA and then has a bunch of these numbers. Click on that and it'll bring up this bar right here. So click on the drop down arrow, and you'll see though we don't have VWAP. So let's go ahead and add VWAP. Let's hit this settings icon down here. We're going to go all the way to the bottom where it says indicators categories. And right there at the top, you're going to see moving averages indicators. Let's click that. And the last option you see here is VWAP, volume weighted average price. Let's put a star there. Go back to our chart. You see it's still not there. We got to hit this drop down again, and there it is. Boom, VWAP. Here we go. So now that I've explained to you a little bit about what it is, and I've showed you how to add it, I want to talk about how we use it. We want to use VWAP to help determine possible entry or exit points. So just like support and resistance areas, once VWAP is broken to the upside, you want to see it become support. The heavier the volume on that break, the stronger the move, and the greater chance that the momentum is going to shift. So we're going to look over here at VVPR, and we're going to scroll over to the 25th. Market open on the 25th. So that's this candle right here. We see that it hit a high of 482, and then in VWAP was actually at 454. So it hit that high, and then it had that quick drop down. So once that morning pop and drop happened, the volume then died down. If you're following my mouse down here, you can see these volume bars died down, and then you can see how it's also trading below VWAP. Now around 10:30 though, we see this little increase in volume, and you can see that these candles are coming up to test VWAP. VWAP right now is acting as a resistance. It's stopping it from being able to push higher. So once, traders see, this is on the 3-minute chart, I believe. So, after this many 3 minutes, they started to lose a little bit of interest. The volume died down here, you can see, and then it started trading below VWAP, kind of had a little bit of a, just didn't have much movement or volume. And then though, a little bit before 11, you see this volume starting to come in, and then you see this break of VWAP to the upside, right? So over here, it's serving as a resistance. And now that it's broken up, we want to make sure that this stock is going to be strong enough, and it's going to now use VWAP as its support to keep it from dropping below. So we got this volume increase here. We have this beautiful break above VWAP. We see it come down a little bit, doesn't test VWAP quite yet, pushes up, pulls back, and that inevitable pullback. But see right here, it hits VWAP, and then it goes back up, right? So it's going back up, not enough to, make a new high or anything like that. But then it starts to, go back down, and then boom, one more time. It hits VWAP and then bounces back up. And when it bounces back up this time, the volume is higher, and it's able to push it all the way up to 562. That wasn't that was just a candle, and then it started to pull back, but it didn't hit VWAP this time. So it's just this right here is just kind of indicating to traders that this is probably a stronger stock, and it might, possibly won't keep dropping down below VWAP and then have a quick pop, just to drop again. So the volume is there, and we're going, and then you look over, and then you can see around a little before 1, this break in VWAP. It came down to test VWAP to see if it was going to still be its support, but it didn't. The selling volume was too high, and it dropped below VWAP, and then it continued to downtrend from there. And you can see as it starts to downtrend, we see a lot of selling volume, but once these sellers start getting out of their positions, no one's going to get back in. They're not interested, right? Because there's a reason why everybody sold. So until traders see another sign of strength, another pattern forming or something like that, they're not really going to be interested, and you're going to see it reflected here in these volume candles. So let's see, what day are we on? Let's keep going. See, you can see it just trading well below VWAP. And then the morning of the 26th, we have this tiny little, pop and drop that, nothing to write home about. And then you see for the rest of the day that it's trading at or below VWAP. But even on the 26th, if you look over here, you can see it. Even though there's no volume, it's testing VWAP. It's not strong enough to push through, but it's testing it, and it's getting rejected. Over here, it's trying to test it again, gets rejected. But then something happens around, let's see, something happens around 3 o'clock. We see that volume comes in a little bit, and we see this break to the upside, like we saw before. And it's going up, and it's moving, a bit of a drop, moving up, moving up. Let's see, drops a little bit below VWAP. I'm not scared yet because, just having watched it throughout the day, I see that when it's using VWAP as its support, it tends to bounce off of it, again, showing us a sign of strength for that, for that stock for that day. So we see that it bounces off VWAP, goes down a little bit, and then, let's see, let's go further. Let's look for the 27th. So we see the 27th. We've got that pop, and there's a little bit of volume here. So already that's kind of a good sign to me. It didn't pop and then drop like it had on the 25th and the 26th. Let's see. Throughout the 27th, it kind of trades a little bit above VWAP, kind of, along it, especially during the lunchtime. While there was no volume here, you can see that these candles are non-existent. And you'll understand candles are just a whole nother beast, you guys. And we wanted to give you kind of the tools to start trading and then build up your knowledge, because seriously, candles, you're not going to learn those in a day, friends. You're really not. So anyway, let's keep going. The 27th, not really nothing, not really great. But then here, around 3 o'clock on the 27th, we see this huge jump, and the volume starts to come in a little bit. And that we watched it the past couple days. It tends to hold above VWAP. We're just waiting for some volume. Here we go. We got a little bit of volume. Boom. Don't jump in here, because that volume didn't last. It was just kind of that quick pop, and it dropped down. Now what we're looking for now is for it to not drop below VWAP. We want VWAP to be its support. And you can see, and then you can see that on the 28th, it opened, and it made a high, and then instead of, dropping and pulling back, it made another high. And then, again, another high, a little bit of a pullback because it's inevitable. But that pullback, it stays above VWAP, and this volume looks pretty good. And so they jump in, and boom, all the way up to 680. Now, please, please do not get FOMO and jump in here. You can see how that worked out. Not only did it drop a lot, it dropped well below VWAP, right? So right now we're seeing this fight between the bulls and the bear traders. And you don't want to get in here and have your money tied up here, and then you're in the middle of this fight, and you don't know who's going to win. You don't know if the bears are going to win and it's going to keep going down all the way. Oh, you don't know if, the bulls are going to win and it's going to continue to go up. You just don't know. It's just a nerve-wracking place to be. So that's why we want to always, when we see these jumps up, we wait for that pullback, right? So we see this pullback, and it's, it's definitely below VWAP. Kind of giving it the side eye at this point. Not really sure. We see down here volume is kind of dying out. And then it comes up and it tests VWAP, and oh my goodness, it's a resistance now. That's not a good sign. Resistance, we don't like that, right? The traders tried to come up and push up that price, and that VWAP, these other traders were like, nope, burp, and they pushed it back down. And then volume died out, and you can see where we had this huge, this large little period of selling. And the only volume that was there was that selling volume bar right there. So after that happens, people aren't that interested anymore, right?
they're just not really looking at it. But then over here, when you go around, you go to about 11 to 12 o'clock, you see that this volume increases and these candles just poke their little head out of here, and then they quickly get pushed down, but that volume's still there and it pushes back above VWAP again. So it just pokes its head out again, and it actually goes up a little bit higher this time. So we're watching. We're not getting in yet, which, this could definitely fake out a lot of traders, this little setup right here. And that's kind of just what happens when trading, right? You can have the perfect setup, you can be following all your rules, and sometimes the trades just don't work out. So we see now that this trade did not work out. And then it dropped below VWAP, and it kind of stayed there around 12:45. It came up and it tried to test it, and it got pushed back down. But then, boom, 3:45, we have a VWAP break to the upside, and then a little bit of a test. Volumes here, boom, big jump, pullback, inevitable pullback. Doesn't even get to VWAP. It's that strong right now, and the volume again is still there, and so we're going up, and it pushes to 714. Inevitable pullback, pushes up again, doesn't have quite the momentum to make a new high, and it pulls back a little bit, and it's getting closer to VWAP. We're really watching this right now because we don't want these candles to continue to break down. We like seeing that it's testing VWAP and then going and then pushing back up, and it's continuing to push back up. And it doesn't even touch VWAP at this point. And let's see, this right here is about the area that I would be interested in getting in, right? Because here we go. Broke VWAP to the upside, came down, not that much. It wasn't a big pop and drop. It's kind of this gradual thing. It comes down and it tests VWAP right here, and then it continues to go up. And I'm looking down, this volume's still looking pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty interested here, and we can see how, had I come in here, some entry like that, I would have been able to ride up a little bit, maybe secured a little bit here, and it's expected it's going to go down. I'm not scared, and then it's going to kind of go down a little bit, but then boom, goes up. Whoever's holding this is a happy little trader, I'll tell you that. And so the reason why, they didn't get scared and start selling here is because they understood that test of VWAP. They weren't going to, sell themselves short and have it, hit here and then test VWAP and go back up. And so that's why I would have, got in here and then held on even though it started going down here. I hope that makes sense. So a couple extra things that I want to consider before I jump in, and this isn't specific to VVPR, the stock we're looking at right now, but basically, even if we see a break in VWAP and a little bit of volume going up, we want to think about what happened throughout the day as it approached that VWAP cross. Did it spend the whole day going, testing VWAP and then dropping sharply because that, of a resistance? Did it cross VWAP even just for a few candles and then the volume die out? Because that again is a resistance, even though it crossed VWAP to the upside and it stayed there for a tiny little bit, it's still serving as somewhat of a resistance. And so that's why before we get in, we want to make sure that it's strong and that it's not a fluke. It's not a fluke jump above VWAP that's going to inevitably sell off, right? So that's VWAP in a very, very basic nutshell. I try not to get real technical because, these are for our beginning traders, like our beginning trading team. a lot of you guys are going to know all of this information, and you're going to kind of wish that I had gone through more. And I can assure you, once we start having a larger team that understands this foundation of knowledge, we're going to keep getting into more and more technical videos that'll give us the better probability of coming out on top, right? The more strategies and patterns we know and indicators we understand, the higher the chances that we're going to come out on top. And that's really what we want, right? All right, guys. I hope you learned something. And as usual, please comment any questions or requests or anything like that. Thanks. Have a good one and happy trading.